Our episode starts with Emperor Hades announcing that he cannot abandon his wife while searching for shelter in a secure location. He then turns to Jill, asking about her well-being. She assures him she's fine and expresses happiness that he's concerned for her. Hades inquires about what happened at the seaport. Jill explains that the enemy's report of capturing the port was a deception meant to mislead them. But she and Miss Sapphire defended the northern forces from the enemy, holding the port until the end. Furious, Belle exclaims, "Do you not see, Emperor, that this girl is a spy? The enemy remains in control of the port. Trust me, Your Majesty, and stay in the palace. If you claim this girl deserves sympathy for being exploited by those savages, I am more than ready to relay that reasoning to everyone." Jill shoots back, "You vile coward! How dare you accuse me of such a thing?" Suddenly, Emperor Hades strides over to a soldier, seizes him by the neck, and says, "Greetings, the Northern Forces uniform suits you. The abrupt reassignment to work here must have been tough. I am your Emperor, Hades. Well done, Zeke, Camilla, and Guardian." The soldiers are shocked that their Emperor knows their names. Hades continues, "It's only fitting for the Emperor to know the names and faces of his soldiers. As Northern Forces member, one of your duties is to inform me of any intel regarding the mastermind behind all of this. My wife seems determined to save everyone, even the expendable pawns, but my temper shifts quickly, so make your choice wisely." All the soldiers kneel before the Emperor, and Hugo reveals that Marquee Bell is the mastermind behind the plot. Emperor Hades then approaches Bell, strikes him, places his foot on his head, and declares, "You're already as good as dead, and the dead don't speak. I warned you earlier that if my wife is innocent, you'd pay for your crimes accordingly." Hades then contemplates how to execute Bell, considering whether to burn him alive, torture him, or turn him over to Bilberg. Meanwhile, we see Miss Sapphire trembling for her father, while Jill reassures her, stating that the Emperor won't kill him. Instead, he will spare her father's life once he hands over Bilberg and confesses his crimes. Belle laughs and says, "And you believe this is mercy? Surely an emperor who drove his mother to suicide would be so kind. Imagine yourself in Jill's place, knowing the emperor might execute an enemy who wronged him. Would you intervene for the kingdom's greater good and support his punishment, watching events unfold without interfering? What would you do? How many people have died for you to become emperor? How many lives have you taken? I was merely trying to protect my land from the cursed emperor. No one in this empire wants you to rule, and perhaps none want you alive." Belle sneers. Emperor Hades responds, "You may be right, but I am the emperor, and that's the truth whether people like it or not." He then orders the soldiers to take Belle away and gather as much information as possible from the criminal's son. Later that night, Jill finds herself wandering through the palace corridor, unsure of where to go. Suddenly, the dragon Rafi appears and asks, "Are you lost?" He guides her to her room. Jill asks, "Aren't there servants here?" Rafi explains that this had been Marquee Bell's palace until just a few hours ago, and his servants were too terrified to be of any use. Jill then asks about the Emperor. Rafi tells her that while the Emperor may seem foolish at times, he knows he can't allow others to see him as weak or naive. He has always had the hidden strength to be Emperor, but his usual demeanor makes it difficult to believe he's restoring order without ruling through fear. Jill comments, "If that continues, he'll eventually lose all his emotion. In the end, he'll become indifferent to both his feelings and the feelings of others." Rafi agrees, saying, "You're right. He hasn't had much interaction with people, so his sense of connection is a bit off. On top of that, he's extreme, thinking that if he can somehow break the curse, everyone will love him." Jill suggests to Rafi that they could help the Emperor get more accustomed to interacting with people. For instance, what if he tried to be a more approachable ruler? Rafi asks. "Do you genuinely like the Emperor?" Jill replies, "It's impossible for our relationship to turn romantic, especially now. What we have is a mutually beneficial arrangement, nothing more." They finally reach her room. Rafi informs her that it's the room she shares with the Emperor. Startled, Jill asks, "You're not telling me His Majesty is inside, are you?" Rafi opens the door and says, Of course you share a room. You're married. Rafi repeats that they're married, so it's only natural they share a room. Plus, it's a matter of security. Jill enters to find the Emperor asleep on the bed, unaware of her presence. He had drunk a lot of wine, clouding his judgment and harming his health. Jill splashes water on him to wake him, as his temperature had soared to 40 degrees Celsius, but fortunately, he feels much better now. As he starts regaining consciousness, Jill comforts him and offers him some fruit. Surprised, he asks, "Are you taking care of me?" She responds, "My dear, how could I not? You're my husband." He thanks her, saying that having her by his side means more than anything and is a remedy in itself. Then he requests some apples, so she takes a knife and slices one, albeit clumsily. Laughing, he says, "You're clumsier than I imagined at this." He lifts her, placing her on his lap, and her face turns red, just like the apple she was cutting. He then shows her the proper way to slice an apple. He's quite skilled, peeling it like a machine. Jill asks him to shape the slices into rabbits, which he does, surprising her. "You truly are brilliant, Your Majesty," she comments. He replies that it's not hard. Everything comes with practice. Jill then picks up a piece of fruit and eats it herself, smiling at how charming he seems. He reminds her of her younger brother, as she comes from a large family. Hadis, however, grows irritated and asks, "How could you compare me to a younger brother? I'm your husband, which means I'm your love and your friend." She confesses that she hasn't told her parents about their marriage. In the end, she thanks him for everything he's done for her, saying that he saved her from the savages that day, and while he could have passed judgment as emperor, he refrained. Hadis replies, "I didn't do it because you despise such things as executions or slaughtering everyone." Emperor Hadis, now sensing the gravity of Jill's feelings, smiled as she held his hand and expressed her concern for him. "But I heard Marquee Bell insult you greatly," Jill said, her eyes filled with conviction. "Next time, if anyone speaks that way, I want you to put them in their place so no one diminishes your value." Her words caught Hadis off guard, and as he noticed her loving gaze, his face turned red, matching the apple they'd just been holding. Hadis, slightly flustered, teased her. "It seems you've fallen in love with me." But Jill stopped him, saying, "This is only natural. I treat you like a younger brother." Shocked and embarrassed, Hadis immediately pulled away, pretending to shiver. "It's cold," he murmured as an excuse. Moments later, he grabbed her again, pulling her close and whispering, "Love between spouses is normal. There's no need to feel shy. But if you haven't fallen for me yet, I may be tempted to uncover everything about you." Though Hadis was filled with affection for Jill, she soon fell asleep, leaving him to reflect. Jill was still quite young, under the age of 14, and her powerful magic was what allowed her to communicate with the dragon Rafi. Despite his feelings, Hadis desired only one thing, to experience love. He let her rest. The following day, Hadis and Jill enjoyed a meal together, with roasted duck as the highlight of the meal. Jill found the dish delicious, and Hadis brought up their marriage arrangement, offering her command over both Camilla and Zeke. However, Jill expressed her fear of separation and loneliness, deciding against it. They spoke about other matters, including Jill's family, before Hadis sent sweets into the palace for his guards. During a tea session, Alyssa, one of the guards, interrupted, but Jill quickly set her straight. Alyssa teased her, suggesting that Jill's quick responses to the Emperor's every call were raising his hopes. Zeke chimed in, offering Jill advice on how to handle the situation. As the dynamic between the Emperor and her was becoming clearer, Jill admitted, "This is the first time a man has tried to woo me. I'm not sure how to handle it." She made it clear that, despite being about to marry, she didn't intend to let romance cloud her judgment. "If I allow this, I won't be able to reprimand His Majesty if he makes a mistake." Zeke noted her harsh tone, but Camilla agreed, remarking that both Jill and the Emperor were still young, and their maturity was not yet complete. Jill reflected on her past, admitting she had come from a different time, and was trying to avoid the mistakes she made before. The conversation soon shifted to the legendary dragon ring Jill wore. "I can't take it off. she said, speculating that the curse that plagued their land might be real. Zeke suggested the curse might calm if Jill stayed close to the Emperor, referencing legends that dragons once warred over whether to rule humans with love or logic. Jill was intrigued, realizing these ancient stories still held power in the present. Just then, Princess Sophia arrived, delivering a letter to Jill. Jill was shocked when she saw the handwriting on the letter and let it slip from her grasp. Emperor Hades caught it, smiling as he said, "I didn't expect it to be accepted so easily, but to have a crown prince with such passion is admirable." Jill looked at him, puzzled, and Hades added, "We are preparing for a grand celebration, and I'll be meeting your guests soon. I've accepted your love challenge."